All right, good morning. Um, this is what, the 23rd of November, and we are going to be talking about Habakkuk. It's something, how often do you have a sermon about Habakkuk? Who even knows who Habakkuk is? Anyway, I've got a lot of Facebook friends, or I've unfriended a lot of them, that are so upset about politics right now. So I asked the question, can God use a bad person to accomplish his will? I'm not going to mention names, but let's just say we have a really bad person in the presidency. Can he still do good? And that's just, and you could say, could other bad presidents have done good things? Can God use bad people to accomplish his will? And I think you pretty much have to, because we're all kind of bad. Anyway, so we're going to be we're going to do the whole book of Habakkuk. He's one of the minor prophets, so it's not real long, but it starts the prophecy that Habakkuk the prophet received. Okay, he starts out and he says, "How long, Lord, must I call for help, but you do not listen, or cry out to you violence, but you do not save?" Now, you got to understand, Habakkuk is in southern kingdom in Judah. The northern kingdom, Israel, has already been hauled off by the Assyrians. They've fallen years ago. But the southern kingdom is a little better than the north. They still, every now and then, have a good king, but they'll have a bad king, then a good king. So they kind of come and go. But they are worshiping foreign gods. They worship the Baals and everything else. And so Habakkuk, the prophet, is saying, "How long, Lord, are you going to let us sin? You need to stop us from sinning." It's kind of the idea. He says, "I cry violence, but you do not save." So it'd be like us saying, "God, you need to come down here and straighten out America. We're bad. You need to fix us." And they're forgetting that little thing called free will, and we kind of have an option to sin. I thought about, because we've been watching this last week, we watched the Revolutionary War by Ken Burns on PBS, and you realize just how bad we were. I mean, in the colonies. We weren't safe. I mean, every colony had slaves. And I think instinctively, we all know slavery is bad. And certainly the Pilgrims knew that. The Quakers knew that. I mean, there were people that were saying, slavery, she is no good. But it was amazing that Thomas Jefferson, when he writes the Declaration of Independence, say, "We know these truths to be self-evident. Number one, that all men are created equal." How many slaves you got there, Thomas? What about you, George? I mean, they all owned slaves. And yet they were upset because they felt like they were slaves to England. We want freedom from England. Yeah, but what about your people? Anyway, so I think, somebody could have been saying the same thing. How long, Lord, are you going to let these colonies have slaves? And then there's indigenous people, the Indians. They're stealing their land right and left. The Pilgrims actually started out kind of good because the natives saved their bacon that first Thanksgiving, right? I mean, that's what we celebrate. We have the kids reenact the little plays, and the Indians come and feed us. So, where are they? I will say I think Massachusetts was probably the state with the least slaves, and the state, or the colony, that was most apt to, preached for, ending slavery. And the Quakers in Pennsylvania. But they didn't. I mean, there was still a lot of slaves going around. Anyway, so Habakkuk goes on, why do you make me look at injustice? God, you're making me see all this sin. Why do you tolerate wrongdoing? Destruction and violence are before me. There is strife and conflict abounds. Therefore, the law is paralyzed. We ain't got no law. Aren't we saying that today? I mean, a criminal can get out the same afternoon and go and commit another robbery. Anyway, justice never prevails. The wicked hem in the righteous, so that justice is perverted. That's when I said, okay, what about slavery, mistreatment of indigenous people, and, like I say, we just watched this program about the Revolutionary War, and it kind of fit. I mean, it kind of fits in to what Habakkuk was saying 4,000 years ago, whatever, 3,000, when he's talking about, how long are you going to put up with this, Lord? Clean us up. You need to stop this sinning. So here's God's answer. Look at the nations and watch, and be utterly amazed. For I'm going to do something in your days that you would not believe, even if you were told. And Habakkuk's probably saying, all right, yes, come save us. Clean us up. What you going to do, God? I am raising up the bloody British, the Babylonians, same thing, that ruthless and impetuous people who sweep across the whole earth to seize dwellings not their own. Plug in British and think, what if this was during the colonial period, but the British had taken over almost the whole earth, it seems like. They had colonies everywhere. And they are kind of a ruthless and impetuous people. They didn't get the name bloody British for nothing.
Well, I know the Brits.
On the in the documentary, I think it was General Tarleton. He was fighting in the South, and he was ruthless. I mean, if you didn't surrender when he said surrender, and you tried to fight him, and he beat you, he killed everybody. They called it Tarleton Scorners, and the colonists went there and did the same thing to the Brits. I'm thinking he might have been the guy in that thing Mel Gibson playing in.
Braveheart.
No, not Braveheart. The one where he was in the colonies. Patriot. Yeah, remember there was a really bad general, and he finally gets him, I think. But anyway, so just think, I'm raising up the British, You're saying, yeah, there's a lot of sin in the colonies, a lot of things wrong. I'm going to bring the British. They're going to come over and whoop your tail. Anyway, they are a feared and dreaded people. The Babylonians certainly were. They are a law to themselves and promote their own honor. Kind of fits. Their horses are swifter than leopards, fiercer than wolves at dusk. Their cavalry gallops headlong. Their horsemen come from afar. They fly like an eagle, swooping to devour. They all come intent on violence. Their hordes advance like a desert wind. They showed in the documentary when the prince would come at you. It was kind of scary, but the Babylonians did it before them. And they gather prisoners like sand. They mock kings. They scoff at rulers. They laugh at all fortified cities. by building earthen ramps that captured them. They even showed how the Brits would keep moving there at night. They'd move a little closer, and pretty soon they're right on top of you. And their cannons can do a lot of damage. But the Babylonians is the same thing. At one point, Britain, during this documentary, once France enters the war, they're fighting not only, the colonies, but France, Spain. I think the Dutch had a problem with them. The whole world. Oh, they were still taking over India at the same time. How did they do it? It's a little island. I guess they're Navy. They had a Navy. Then they sweep past like the wind and go on. Guilty people whose own strength is their God. Lincoln, we're back. Lincoln believed that the Civil War was kind of our national punishment for slavery. So he would say that the two wars, Revolutionary and Civil, were both really fought over slavery. And I'm thinking it was such a bad sin that it took two wars. It took not only the Brits fighting the Brits, but we still had slavery. I'm wondering what if they had, before inviting the Brits over to kill us, what if we had said, let's clean up our act, people. Let's end slavery. I mean, you can still have a bunch of servants, just pay them. One lady in the documentary was talking about how if somebody was to offer her 1 minute of freedom and then they were going to kill her, she would take that 1 minute because it meant so much to her to be a free woman for 1 minute. I mean, we can't even imagine being someone else's property. But God doesn't like it. I don't think he likes abortion either. That kind of fits our present world. But anyway, but Lincoln himself, even though he was fighting to free the slaves, he believed that the North was suffering too because they hadn't been much better. Anyway, they had slaves too.
So do you think it was the national punishment?
I think God uses strange things like wars to get our attention, to change our mind. So we finally, after the Civil War, we finally got rid of slavery. Well, that and the cotton gin. I think the cotton gin, if we had just waited for that, I think about England. I mean, they had slavery. They were hauling slaves all over the world. But it was John Newton with Amazing Grace and William Wilberforce who kind of led the charge, and eventually they ended slavery without a civil war. It could be done. I think had the religious leaders risen up in this country, I think we probably could have avoided both wars. But that's kind of the way I feel about most wars. I think we can do better. We don't have to kill each other. Anyway, okay. Habakkuk now is thinking, oh no, hold on. That's not what I was asking for. His second complaint. His first complaint was, why don't you do something about us? We're sinners. His second complaint, Lord, are you not from everlasting? You're eternal. My God, my Holy One, you're holy. You'll never die. You, Lord, have appointed them, the Babylonians, to execute judgment. You, my rock, have ordained them to punish. He's saying this is wrong. You are wrong. Your eyes are too pure to look on evil. And this would be what people would say, God cannot use an evil person or nation to do his will. And that's kind of what Habakkuk is saying. You cannot tolerate wrongdoing. Why then do you tolerate the treacherous? Why are you silent while the wicked swallow up those more righteous than themselves? We're sinners, but we're not as bad as them. Compare us, Lord. No, I'm not in the business of doing that, Habakkuk. You have made people like the fish in the sea, like sea creatures. They have no ruler. It's like we're just a bunch of fish, and the wicked foe, Babylon, is going to pull our Britain, is going to pull all of them up with doing. Well, some of us are good. You're going to let him catch all of us? Think about that God. He, Babylon, catches them in his net. He gathers them up in his drag net. So he rejoices and is glad. Therefore, he sacrifices to his net and burns incense to his drag net. For by his net, he lives in luxury and enjoys the choicest food. Is he to keep on emptying his net, destroying nations without mercy? I will stand at my watch. Here's Habakkuk saying, all right, I've asked the question. I'm going to just wait for God to answer. I'm going to just stand here. I'm going to wait. He's got a lot of explaining to do, I'm going to station myself on the ramparts. I would look to see what he will say to me and what answer I am to give to this complaint. He'll answer me, I'll write it down. Okay, I'm ready. I'm ready, God. The Lord's answer. Write down the revelation and make it plain on tablets so that a herald may run with it. Write this down, Habakkuk. It's going to be in the Bible someday. For the revelation awaits an appointed time. It's coming. They're coming. It speaks of the end. And I think he's talking about their end. He's talking about the Babylonians, but this kind of applies to us too. Because he's already said, look, people, you're going to get so corrupt, the world's going to get so bad, that I'm going to send the Antichrist. You don't want me, I'm going to give you Satan. I'm going to give Satan his day, and he's going to run the show. Then you're going to see how I can use evil people to accomplish my good. Anyway, it will not prove false. It's coming. The Magog War, the Gog War, it's coming. Fortunately, the rapture, I think, comes first. So there is going to be that. If you're righteous, don't worry. But otherwise, trouble is coming. It will not prove false. Though it linger, if you think it's taking a long time. Some people say it's over, it ain't going to happen. We are post-millennial. We've already seen the 1,000-year reign of Christ. Crazy talk. Or they say, no, Christ already returned. It's just secret. And we've got all these buildings we've got ready to go. We're ready to welcome him in. You might be welcoming in the wrong guy. And anyway, it will certainly come and will not delay. See, the enemy is puffed up. His desires are not upright. But here it is. Yeah, the Babylonians, the Brits, the Ruskies, whoever your enemies are, they're not upright. True. I'm going to use them, but they're not outright. But, there's a huge but, the righteous person will live by his faithfulness. What he's telling Habakkuk and us, don't worry about that. You just stay righteous. You stay in a right relationship and let me take care of the rest. Live by your faithfulness. Be faithful. Hang in there, is what he's telling the righteous. Now, it gets interesting because he says, indeed, wine betrays him. And other people I've heard, even Howard Hendricks, when he talked on this, he goes into kind of lamblast alcohol. It's anti-alcohol. Wine. Not so fast, Kemosabe. I mean, there's good wine. I had some recently.
We did too.
The wine I think he's talking about is, in this case, wine to the Babylonians. It's that addictive thing that we get when we torment others, or when we defeat others, or when we oppress others, when we kill. It's like wine. It's addictive. You can't get enough of it. Now to God, and we'll talk about that, God talks about his wine. It's his wrath, the wrath of God. It kind of fits into the Babylonians. They're angry. They have this wrath for these people they're killing. But God's wrath is justified. We deserve to die. We've sinned. We've earned the death penalty. So we'll talk about that. But I think it fits in the Nebuchadnezzar's wine, God's wine. It's very similar, except Nebuchadnezzar's evil. He is arrogant and never at rest. Here's that idea: you can't get enough violence. We get a taste for violence, for killing, for oppressing, for owning slaves, for abortion. I mean, whatever. You can't get it. Once you're into it, you'll do whatever it takes to defend our right to abort babies. Anyway, because he is as greedy as a grave, and like death is never satisfied, he gathers to himself all the nations and takes captive all the peoples. Think Britain, we're expanding our empire, and all this wealth is coming back on these ships. We send an army, we get wealth. It's working. The king's happy. Well, not all of them, the people that have been oppressed, taunt him with ridicule and scorn, saying, "Woe to him who piles up stolen goods and makes himself wealthy by extortion." How long must this go on? People can only take so much of it. Will not your creditors suddenly arise? Will they not wake up and make you tremble? Then you will become their prey. He's talking to the Babylonians. He's talking to the British. He's warning them, I'm going to use you, but just remember, payday someday. When that famous sermon, payday someday. It's coming. You get paid back. Because you have plundered many nations, the people who are left will plunder you. In this case, it was the Medes and the Persians. The Persians take over Babylon, destroy Babylon. For you have shed human blood. God just doesn't like it when you shed innocent blood. You have destroyed lands and cities and everyone in them. Oh, I thought you said that. Woe to him who builds his house by unjust gain, setting his nest on high to escape the clutches of ruin. You have plotted the ruin of many people, shaming your own house and forfeiting your life. Woe to him who builds a city with bloodshed and establishes a town by injustice. Has not the Lord Almighty determined that the people's labor is only fuel for the fire, that the nations exhaust themselves for nothing? Nothing good going to come out of this, Babylon. For the earth will be filled with the knowledge of the glory of the Lord as the waters cover the sea. So it's coming, almost like the flood. It's like, yeah, you can be evil and corrupt, but the earth is going to be filled with my glory, just as I covered the entire earth with water. Woe to him who gives drink to his neighbors. Once again, we're back to the alcohol. But I think that's this wine of wrath. You're making your neighbors drink the wrath that I'm pouring it out from the wineskin till they are drunk, so that he can gaze on their naked bodies. He can destroy them and then just be proud of, look what I've done to these people. You will be filled with shame instead of glory. Now it is your turn. Drink, and let your nakedness be exposed. Drink my wrath. You're going to be drinking my wrath now. The cup from the Lord's right hand is coming around to you, and disgrace will cover your glory. I was thinking about this whole thing about the wrath of God and wine and all that. And I found this in Revelation 14:9. And he's talking about the end time. He's talking about Antichrist, the mark of the beast. A third angel followed them and said in a loud voice, if anyone worships the beast and its image. We talked about that probably being a statue that come to life. AI all over again. Anyway, and receives its mark. So the mark is kind of the mark of the image, the beast, on their forehead or on their hand. They too will drink the wine of God's fury. You don't want to be drinking that wine. That's a bad wine, which has been poured full strength into the cup of his wrath. It's God's wrath. They will be tormented with burning sulfur in the presence of the holy angels and of the Lamb. There's a song in Christ Alone. It was written by Stuart Townsend and Keith Getty, and it has this line: till on that cross, as Jesus died, the wrath of God was satisfied. For every sin on him was laid. Here, in the death of Christ, I live. We don't have to worry about drinking that wrath of God, that wine, because it's been poured out on Jesus. God's wrath for our sin. If you accept him, if you say, I'll take that, sounds like a good deal. I think I'll buy that. Anyway, for every sin on him was laid. So we don't have to worry about that wrath of God. Jesus took it. He said, give me that wrath. Here, you take my righteousness. The great exchange. We earned the wrath. He took it. He earned the gold medal. We got it. He gave it to us. The violence you have done to Lebanon, talking to the Babylonians, will overwhelm you. And your destructions of animals will terrify you. God's even watching what are they doing to the crops and the animals of these people. You're going to pay for that. For you have shed human blood. You have destroyed lands and cities and everyone in them. Of what value is an idol carved by a craftsman? I think now he's going on, yeah, you've got your gods. You think they're going to protect you? Or an image that teaches lies. there was a guy that there was quite a bit of discussion about this talk because I told him what I'm going to talk about today. And one guy, the last comment was like, in the darkness, there's light, and we are all gods. Together, we are God. And I'm thinking, let me know how that works out someday. I mean, you think you're God. When you die, see if you can, in fact, create your own home or a place to live or continue living without the life giver, without God himself. Anyway, you got an image, you got your own God. See how that works out. For the one who makes it trust in his own creation. Say you got to trust in God's creation. He makes idols that cannot speak. God, on the other hand, speaks to us. God reaches down to us and saves us. We don't have to go up to him. Woe to him who says to wood, come to life, or to lifeless stone, wake up. Can it give guidance? It is covered with gold and silver, but there is no breath in it. The Lord is in his holy temple. Let all the earth be silent before him. He closes by just saying, I'm in control. Understand that. I'm God and you're not. Okay, Habakkuk closes with this prayer. A prayer of Habakkuk the prophet on Shigionoth. I thought, what is Shigionoth? Or whatever. And all they can say is probably a literary or musical term. We don't know. So that was a waste. Sometimes you do research. Doesn't help. But anyway, Lord, I have heard of your fame. I stand in awe of your deeds, Lord. Repeat them in our day. He's talking about you did save us from the Assyrians. You saved us through, was it Gibeon, from the Midianites? You've saved us in the past. Would you mind saving us now? So he's still kind of pleading for maybe you'll change your mind, not send them here, you know. Anyway, in wrath, remember mercy. Yeah, try it. You might as well try it. It might work. It didn't, but God came from Teman, the Holy One from Mount Paran. And that's the desert of Paran, Saudi America.
Arabia.
Huh?
Saudi Arabia.
Arabia. What did I say?
America.
Saudi America.
Could be.
Yeah, it's coming true right now, isn't it? Anyway, we'll be owned by the Saudis in no time. At any rate, God appeared on Mount Sinai, so it was in Saudi Arabia. We think of him, well, he came from the Promised Land. No, actually, he kind of, that was his Mount Horeb. But he did kind of follow him. They were his people. Put me in a box. Call it the Ark of the Covenant. Take me to Jerusalem. Anyway, his glory covered the heavens, and his praise filled the earth. His splendor was like the sunrise. Rays flashed from his hand, where his power was hidden. You know, a lot of times they talk about lightning bolts coming from God. Plague went before him. Pestilence followed him steps. I wonder if he's talking here about what he did to Egypt. Plague. He stood and shook the earth. He looked and made the nations tremble. The ancient mountains crumbled, and the age-old hills collapsed. But he marches on forever. Possibly what happened before the flood. I suspect any mountains fell. I think the earth was flatter than a flat earth. I'm a flat earther, but it was still a sphere, but it was flat. Does that make sense? So anyway, real easy to go. People say, God cannot cover the mountains with water. The whole earth can't have a worldwide flood. And God says, hold my wine or beer. Anyway, he did it. Because he didn't really have to cover Mount Everest. Mount Everest wasn't there yet. They rose up. Anyway, but he marches on forever. I saw the tents of Cushan in distress, the dwellings of Midian in anguish. So he's talking about people that have attacked the Jews before, and it didn't work out. The Midianites got defeated. Were you angry with the rivers, Lord? Was your wrath against the streams? Did you rage against the sea when you rode your horses and your chariots to victory? In other words, when he destroys the earth, is he angry at the earth? No. He's angry at man, you know. When he rides his horses and chariots to victory, it's against man, sinners. You uncover your bow. You call for many arrows. You split the earth with rivers. The mountains saw you and writhed. Torrents of water swept by. The deep roared and lifted its waves on high. Sounds like the flood. Sun and moon stood still in the heavens at the glint of your flying arrows, at the lightning of your flashing spear. In wrath you strode to the earth, and in anger you threshed the nations. Sounds like the flood. Could also be the flood of the Red Sea threshing Pharaoh. You came out to deliver your people, to save your anointed one. When God saved the Israelites, he was saving the seed of Jesus. Jesus is a Jew. So when he provides a way through the Red Sea, 2,500 feet deep, no problem. I'm saving my son. Think of it that way. You crushed the leader of the land of wickedness. You stripped him from head to foot. Possibly Pharaoh. With his own spear, you pierced his head. When his warriors stormed out to scatter us, gloating as though about to devour the wretched who were in hiding, you trampled the sea with your horses, churning the great waters. I think they were trampling the sea bad. They were bringing every chariot they owned, their entire army, and God trampled the sea on top of them. It could be. I heard in my heart pounded. My lips quivered at the sound. Decay swept into my bones, and my legs trembled. Yet I will wait patiently for the day of calamity to come on the nation invading us. So Habakkuk is saying, I will wait. You've told me it's going to happen. Now I've got something I can wait on the ramparts in hope. You know, I know they're coming first, but then they're going down. And here it is, we've all heard this one. Though the fig tree does not bud, and there are no grapes on the vines, though the olive crop fails, and the fields produce no food, though there are no sheep in the pen, and no cattle in the stalls. Just think, economic collapse. Think, money goes out and think you got nothing. We're in big trouble, right? Yet I will rejoice in the Lord. I will be joyful in God my Savior. Like he said, you will take care of the wicked, but the righteous shall live by faith. Just be righteous, and I'll take care of the rest. The sovereign Lord is my strength. He makes my feet like the feet of a deer. He enables me to tread on the heights. There you go. Habakkuk.
Amen.
Anybody want to comment? We got a mic. We have a microphone. Thought, comment. I think it really kind of ties in well with what we've been doing with the Exodus, the destruction of Pharaoh's army. But it also ties into our present time. Trouble is coming. He's told us, he's warned us, and the signs are all around us, but we can still rejoice because he's going to take care of us. All right? Well, John didn't make it, but he may still show up, and if he does, well, listen. I told him, I asked him if he could sing that song, 110 Soldier Walks Away. Anyway, because it's all about destruction, and he said he might be able to do that. So someday we'll do that. All right, well, I guess I should pray. Would that be being religious? I'll just, Heavenly Father, we just thank you for the word. And we thank you for that comfort that you've given us. We just say, be righteous. Be in a right relationship with me, and I'll take care of the details. Thank you for Jesus, and thank you for this day, Father. And we just look forward to your coming. All right, we'll see you guys next week.